Hi everyone and welcome back to my channel. Today I'm going to talk about our royal love stories. I'm talking about King George VI and his wife Queen Elizabeth, later the Queen Mother. Because yes, I am a romantic girl, and so I have to talk about love in at least one of my videos. But before starting the video, subscribe to my channel and leave a comment telling me whether you like this couple. So now let's start with describing them. George VI was born on the 14th of December 1895 as Albert Frederick Arthur George, and he was the second son of King George V and his wife Queen Mary. He was called Bertie by the family, and he had a very difficult childhood because of his father. In fact, it is said that Bertie was literally terrified of his father since he was cruel and he wasn't very close to his children. We also have to say that Bertie was always seen as the second one. I mean that he was always less important than his brother David, Prince of Wales, and future king Edward the Eighth. So Bertie grew up as a boy crucified by shyness. He was nervous, a left-hander forced to be a right-hander. He also had a powerful stammer, and he was tormented by nervous twitches and rages. So royal life was hell for him, was a personal hell for him, especially when he had to read complex speeches, so speeches with complex words, and so yes, every public appearance, every speech was a personal hell. However, Bertie was a natural athlete. In fact, he loved every kind of sport. So sport was like, I think that sport was a way to blow off steam. About his wife, so talking about Elizabeth. Elizabeth was born on the 4th of August, at the beginning of the 20th century, and she was born as Elizabeth Bowes-Lyon, and she was part of the Scottish aristocracy. She was lucky enough to have a beautiful childhood. In fact, she had lovely parents. She wasn't so beautiful. In fact, she was a common English girl with blue eyes and black hair. But she had strong personality, and most important, she had a fabulous smile. So she could have every man she wanted. Elizabeth and Bertie met the first time in 1921, and Bertie fell head over heels in love with Elizabeth, who didn't like him at the beginning. So at the beginning, she didn't love him, but Bertie didn't give up, and after 2 years, yes, in 1923, they finally got married, and Bertie's father, George V, created them Duke and Duchess of York. The secret of their wedding, of their relationship, was and is their difference. In fact, their personalities were very, very different, and that's the reason, that's why they loved each other so much. And in fact, thanks to Elizabeth, Bertie became stronger and less shy. Elizabeth was something special for Bertie, because he found in Elizabeth the strength that he has never had, and the lovely family, the lovely parents that he has never had. After their wedding, Elizabeth gave birth to their first child, or better, their first daughter. I'm talking about Elizabeth, the future Queen Elizabeth. The future Queen Elizabeth II. Now, it is said that Bertie was again terrified of his father, or better, was terrified of telling his father that his first child, his first child, was a female and not a male. But King George V was very happy about this fact, about having a granddaughter, and about the fact that his first grandchild was a female and not a male. It is also said that Elizabeth, that the little Elizabeth, was the only one that had the power of making King George V, so the cruel king, of making him smile and making him happy. 3 years after Elizabeth's birth, her mother, Elizabeth, the Duchess of York, gave birth to another baby girl, Margaret. Bertie and Elizabeth were lovely parents and loved so much their children. It is said that Elizabeth was George VI pride, and Margaret was George VI joy. So in this family, parents have a special relationship with with their children, and that's what George the Sixth, what Bertie wanted for his family, because he wanted his children to be terrified of him, as he was terrified of his father. And both Bertie and Elizabeth wanted their children to have an ordinary life, an ordinary and lovely and quiet life, as any other children. So they wanted to be an ordinary family, an ordinary and lovely family that George VI used to call us for. And they lived as an ordinary family since 1936. This is a special year because this year changed their life forever. But what happened exactly? So before talking about 1936, we have to talk about 1935. In 1935, George V died, and so his eldest son, David, became king as King Edward VIII. David, and so now King Edward VIII, was called also Prince Charming because he was beautiful, he was handsome, and he also had many relationships with lots of women, in particular with married women, and the reason of all that, the reason of 1936 seen as a bad year for the York family is a woman, Wallis Simpson, an American woman who was married and woman for at the same time. King Edward VIII fell completely in love with this American woman and wanted her to be queen consort. So he wanted to marry her. But given that he was king, he was also head of the Anglican Church, and so he couldn't marry a divorcee. So he had to choose between the monarchy and between love, and he chose love, and so he abdicated. And so, given that King Edward VIII hadn't any children, the first in line to the throne was his brother Bertie. So King Edward VIII abdicated, and the future king will be Bertie, and And so Bertie who changed his name from Albert, that sounded too German, from Albert to George VI, because of his father. So that was a tribute to his father. But let's talk about the reaction of Bertie when King Edward VIII abdicated. Bertie was shocked, was completely shocked and worried, because he had lots of problems, so he couldn't be a good king. He couldn't be king. And most important, being king, he couldn't give his children an ordinary life and a normal life. So it is said that he cried his eyes out. Elizabeth wrote to David, begging him not to abdicate. Also, Bertie begged his mother, because because he didn't want to become king. But King Edward VIII abdicated, and so Bertie had to become king. So in 1936 they became King George VI and Queen Mary. So Elizabeth and Margaret became Princess Elizabeth and Princess Margaret. And that's how a girl that wasn't expected to become king was the first in line became the first in line to the throne. Because Elizabeth, when she was born, no one expected that one day she would become queen, and the same was for his father, Albert, now King George VI. Now let's talk about King George VI's reign. He is a forgotten king, but he was a remarkable and an important figure, for an important character for its time, for the Second World War, for the 40s and the 50s. Because we can say that King George VI and Queen Elizabeth were the right person, the right people in the right place. So they were seen as an ordinary family, so they broke royal rules, because before them royal families were seen as something to honor, something more. They were seen as something special, and they were seen as gods. So for the first time after Queen Victoria and her husband Prince Albert, a king and a queen are ordinary people, are sold as ordinary people. They were close to poor people, as some years later will do Diana, Princess of Wales, the very famous Lady Di. Especially during the war, they did a great job helping poor people, helping the country, not leaving the country. In fact, they stayed in London during all the war, even though in a period, even though some people told them that they had to leave London and to stay in another place because London wasn't safe enough. So thanks to Elizabeth and thanks to the monarchy, George VI overcame his shyness and part of his problems, and has an old problems, and as an old proverb says, after a great man there is always a great woman. King George VI died in 1952 when he was 56, even though it seemed he was 70, after a tumor, and after while his eldest daughter and future queen was in Kenya with her husband. That's because Kenya was part of a tour that King George VI had to do, but this tour was done by Elizabeth and her husband Philip, because the king was very, very ill. In fact, that was the last time that King George VI saw his loved daughter. And in fact, some days later, 1 week later, he died while he was sleeping. His death was completely unexpected because no one knew about his tumor. The king knew that he was dying, but he didn't tell it. He didn't tell anyone. And so it was completely unexpected for both his family and the country. After his death, his eldest daughter, who was only 25, became Queen Elizabeth II, and his wife, Queen Elizabeth, became the Queen Mother. She lived on 50 years as the Queen Mother, and as an important and a central character of the English monarchy. His daughter, King George VI daughter, Queen Elizabeth II, followed his father's way of ruling the country, but this way of ruling the country, so the perfect family, royal family seen as ordinary people, was too perfect. This model was too perfect to continue, and too perfect to change. And to be flexible with new times, with new years. Lastly, I would like to say two things things that are very, very particular. One is the fact that King George VI loved so much his daughter, in particular his eldest daughter, that when Philip proposed to Princess Elizabeth, the king waited for 1 year to give his daughter to Philip. And the other thing isn't very funny, but it's something very, very particular. It is said that the king's brother, so King Edward VIII, was I don't want to say that he was a Nazi, but during his reign he visited lots of time Germany, and so he talked lots of time with Hitler. And it is also said that Hitler made a promise to King Edward VIII and his wife Wallis Simpson. In fact, he said that after winning the war, the promise was the fact that after winning the war, Hitler would give the throne to Edward VIII, so to David, and not to Albert Bertie, King George VI. So that's all. That's all I wanted to say about this couple and about King George VI. I hope you enjoyed my video. Subscribe to my channel, leave a comment, and that's all. Bye!